We are now.
I didn't know if we wanted to start with introduction, but I'll let you,
Let's
kick
do that.
things off.
Again, welcome everyone. I'm Rick Coleman, the acting director of the Office of Water Resources, transitioned in for Laura Wolvick, who's a longstanding chair here of the State Water Plan Task Force. So just kind of getting my feet into this as well. Thankfully, we have some consistency and among the members here, including the man behind the majority of the work here, Weston Tour. So welcome everyone, and we'll do a round of introductions.
Okay, Les Couture, Acting Division Manager of Capital Programs.
Meg Kelly from Illinois Department of Natural Resources, Division Manager of our Coastal Management Program.
Brian McCoy, Illinois Department of Transportation, Bureau of Planning, and do the water. Glenn Heason, Illinois State Water Survey at the University of Illinois, leads the Coordinated Hazard Assessment Map Program.
Erin Bauer at the Illinois State Water Survey at the University of Illinois. I lead the Water Impact for Society Environment section.
Jason Van, State Water Survey, what's the largest?
I'm Trent Fuller, state climatologist, also at Water Survey.
We have meeting no DNR. I'm the water supply program manager at OWR.
Aaron, Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, without point source unit.
Jeff is from Illinois EPA, the non-point source city.
Just as a member of college, so.
Brian Ridicker, Division of Natural Resources, at Illinois Department of Ag.
Walter Rose, I am from Illinois Emergency Management Recovery Division, and I'm responsible for ID Region 4, which is code to phase and maintenance.
Phil Shipley, I am as well, covering hazard mitigation specialist for regions 2 and 3.
Chairman Carlin, IDNR Office of Water Resources. I am the flood surveillance program manager and acting chief of engineering studies, or section chief.
I'm Kyle Hart, so with IDNR, OWR, just started as the stream restoration.
Mike McClellan, IDNR, 4C, Chief Fisheries.
Okay, online, I'm gonna just kind of read out some names, and then if you want to give an introduction, we'll start with Christy Davis. Christine, I see you're still muted. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up. You may be having difficulties. Christy's with the IEPA. Brian Cox, if you want to do a quick introduction.
Hello, my name is Brian Cox, and I'm with the Illinois Department of Public Health, Division of Environmental Health, specifically the manager of the Plumbing and Water Quality Program.
Thank you, Brian. You fine?
Hello, everyone. Yvonne Forslin, Director of Illinois Water Resource Center. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Garen Cheek.
Hi, Jaren Cheek Butler, and I am with IDPH Environmental Health on the team with Brian.
Okay. And Jeff Axelrod.
Hey, I'm Jeff Axelrod. I'm with Unfenced Gilson, just here observing.
And then Zach Krug.
Zach Krug, I'm the IEMA OHS Hazard Mitigation Section Manager.
Zach, I hope you're feeling better today. And then I think we also got Brian Metzke.
Hello, Brian Metzke, aquatic ecologist, IDNR, Office of Resource Conservation.
I believe that's everybody I have online. Is there anybody else that did not get a chance to introduce yourself? Okay, hearing none, we will go ahead on to do official roll call just to make sure that we have a quorum here. So just a reminder, we only have one representative from each of the 11 agencies for the State Water Plan Task Force. So getting a little concerned or, comment that's a little blurry, maybe the sun background and the lighting in the room, so I apologize, I'm not sure if we can do a whole lot about that. I don't have a focus on our cameras, so, I hope that you can still see the shared screen just fine, and, I'm sorry, we'll just have to deal with the limitations we have. But for a roll call, again, just want the one person to speak out to give their name, who's the official representative here for that meeting. So we'll start with the Office of Water Resources.
Here.
So Rick Pullman. And ORC. Yep, yeah, here. Public Health. Hearing none from Public Health.
Here.
Apologize, thank you, Brian. EPA. Jeff, EPA, and DOT.
Brian Boyd.
Department of Ag.
Brian.
It's here. IEMA.
Present.
Zach chiming in for IEMA. Illinois Pollution Control Board. I don't think we had anybody from there. DCEO. Hearing none. State Water Survey. Who wants to take the official vote if we have any voting matters? That's the only thing that's. All right, Greg Ford representing the State Water Survey. And last but not least, we have Water Resources Center.
Yvonne here. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. All right, my understanding is that we have 8 of 11 members present, so we do have a quorum for the meeting. So with that, we will move forward with one other just piece of business of that we need to, our standard, the approval of the minutes. You all should have received the minutes back on October 6th. That was after sending them out a couple times, getting some comments, but that was the last version we had with no additional comments. Guess I'll open it up if there's any questions or comments on the meeting minutes.
Yeah, I have a comment. I see Brian Cox showed up twice. Do we have two guys with the same name or is one of those typo in the meeting minutes?
In the meeting minutes, we had a typo with having Brian twice.
Yes, Brian Cox in DOT and IDPH.
Okay, so we'll recommend striking Brian Cox from DOT and making that modification. Is there any other comments? Okay, so I guess I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes with said amendment as discussed. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Motion by Brian McCoy and second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the meeting minutes pass. All right, so one order of business that we need to make sure that we address. Again, this is just kind of taking care of business. We all are likely aware that last year we officially became a legislatively mandated organization. With that, we have to meet the Open Meetings Act requirements. From that, we need an official member from each of the agencies that are set in that designation. And the requirement for the Open Meeting Act is that you have to go on and one time only take the training for the Open Meeting Act. So that's the requirement for the Open Meeting Act. And we'd also recommend that that person be the primary voting entity for that agency whenever they're present. And they can also designate somebody to speak on their behalf. So it's not like that person has to be present, but they would probably coordinate who's going to be in their place. So as you can see, I have a list of names for the 11 different official members. I think I kind of got down to one person with the exception of State Water Survey. So I guess I will just kind of open it up. If any agency would like me to replace a name that I have shown here, these are typically the person who's been the most involved or, maybe one of the topic leads. And that's where I came with. This is not set in stone, so we can change it now, but I'd like to essentially move to have this official membership list set so that we can make sure we're meeting the Open Meeting Act requirements. So is there any agencies that see a name up there that that they would like to be changed out? And I'll, of course, look to State Water Survey because I wasn't exactly sure who State Water Survey wanted to designate as their representative.
It's probably Jenna.
Yeah, the State Water Survey hasn't discussed this officially, but Jenna Shelton is our director, so I would recommend that she be the official person.
Okay, so just let it be noted that of the three, the first name, Jenna Shelton, would be the one that is being moved forward with the list of official members. Is there any other comments, thoughts, critiques, edits on this list of official members? Again, it does require you to go on and take that Open Meetings Act training. If you have not done it, you only have to do it once. Unfortunately, Rick, as the chair, has to take it annually, and the next, I guess we can also lump myself in here as the Open Meeting Act designee. That's set per organization. So the State Water Task Force needs a Open Meeting Act designee to make sure that we're posting agendas and posting meetings and following all the stuff we need to follow. So the chair and that designee requires to take the Open Meeting Act training annually, just because I don't have enough annual training as it is being a state employee. So it'll be another fun one to add to the list. For you state employees, you understand that. I guess, is there any comments? Otherwise, I will see if anybody would like to make a motion to accept the list of members as is, with the condition that Jenna Shelton would be the representative for State Water Survey.
Do we know how to find or access that training, or will we have a link?
So I have sent it out in the past, but that was probably 9 months ago. But I can easily send that once again on where you go to take that training, and it has some instructions on it. So if you want to dig through my past emails, you'll find it, but it will also include, I'll include something post this meeting to include that. So again, if we want to go ahead and approve this, I would need a motion and a second to initiate a vote.
Let's have a question. Do
Yes.
these members have to be present to do the voting? Are these the voters?
No.
Okay.
No. So as mentioned, they're just for the Open Meeting Act, and it is intended that they would be the primary one to attend. If they're unable to attend, then they can assign a designee in their absence to make sure that we still have, because the agency is the actual member, but because we have to have people to take training and make sure that we Open Meeting Act, that's why we're coming up with this list.
We basically are the ones that are taking training.
Thank you.
And if I have a question about something, I may be coming to that member first, if not the topic lead, but again, not to really confuse anything, but that's what we're required with to abide by the Open Meeting Act.
I motion we accept the minutes of the official members list.
Okay.
As stated.
Motion's been made. Anybody second?
Second it.
Ryan McCoy second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, the members list officially passed up with a lot less excitement than the other. Who wants to take the open meetings? All right. So with that, I guess, Rick, you want me to turn it back to you as we discuss this? We got some of that more business focused stuff. The next item that we're going to talk about was, there's been discussion about the sub-task force framework. I know this is something you brought up, Rick. I don't know if you want to give a little background or if you want me to talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of lead it in and let you take it, farther. But, you know, as we begin to develop a need for the sub-task force groups, we need to certainly discuss how that framework can play into the confines of the task force, to put a little bit more definition into how they will be formed, who will lead, and essentially determine how that reporting will happen then at quarterly meetings or some interim period, and just kind of lay that out so we all know, if you're a member of one of these task force groups, what are your responsibilities for reporting out. So Wes, I think that's a little bit of foundation, and you could probably put more color to that.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. We currently only have 2 sub-task force groups officially organized, the Lake Michigan Beach Access, and I forgot to look at the minutes to see what the official drought task force name was, so my apologies there, but I think it was the Drought Response Task Force is what we may have went with. But a little bit of background, we had some questions about why they're formed and how they differ from the topic committees. So the topic committees, as you know, whenever we went and developed the state water plan that was published in December 22, we had our topic leads, and that was who was in charge of 13 topics that we determined. And they had a committee to help them kind of develop the recommendations to include in the state water plan and what not to include in kind of the priority listing. So with that, that was kind of the main focus of the committee, and the committee could also help implement those recommendations. But what we found with some of the recommendations, it required a deeper dive into that topic. So the Lake Michigan Beach Access, while I'm not very familiar with it, is just a prime example of that. That is a very specialized topic that may not be applicable to the topic committee, but may need a new specialized group focusing on that one topic. So that was the purpose of these sub-task force groups, is to focus on one single recommendation, whether that be from the plan, and maybe been a legislative initiative that they asked us to form this. It may have just been something that the group decided that we would like to undertake outside of those recommendations. And so that sub-task force group has a little bit different structure, and I can get into the bylaws, and we kind of laid that out a little bit, but they essentially focus or act just like the task force, but as a subgroup, and they have a connection to one of the topic leads of the task force. And so that's how the communication is pushed from, say, the Lake Michigan Beach Access. They would communicate or have a point of contact with Meg, who's our topic connection or a topic lead for that subcommittee, just as Way is for the drought response. So if that subcommittee proposes a report or pushes an initiative, it can garner support from the task force by moving through that lead. So that's a little bit of the background behind how they're different from just a regular topic committee. So one thing is that we kind of didn't really have a set framework on that. So I think we've identified that we need to have a topic lead as the connection. I don't think they have to be the chair of that sub-task force, is what we discussed previously in the last meeting. But we really didn't have a set framework on, are we going to start introducing updates at each quarterly meeting? Is that something that you all want to hear about at every quarterly meeting that we have, an update status from these groups? Or do we just have them at their own will reach out to the task force and say, hey, I have an update I'd like to give, or maybe they just make an announcement at new business. Maybe they give an announcement during their topic lead, as you're familiar with in all of our agendas, we do the round robin from the topic leads. So maybe that would be the ideal place. So I'm just kind of wanting to get some feedback and thought from the group. Do you want to hear about, and again, right now we have a list of 2. This could become a list of 12 or 25, or I don't know, over time. But I guess I'm curious to hear from you all. Is this something you want to hear from at every meeting? Or would you rather just have that topic lead give pertinent updates when needed? And I'll especially look to Meg and Wei to see if you guys think you'll have information to share at each meeting, where you want us to directly put you on the spot and ask for an update, or if you'd rather just like include it in your topic summary. So I'll turn to either one of you if you have an opinion to start the discussion.
Actually, the draft task is a recommended task under sustainability session. So I will update that at each meeting. So it doesn't matter which one, you know, one way or the other. So it's all the same. If we have something to update, we will provide updated information on the recommendation.
Meg, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay with as needed each time, you know, during the topic, the download. Although I am sort of wondering, should we say at least annually, just to make sure folks are progressing and their, you know, their subgroups along the way.
Okay, so maybe on an annual basis. I guess then that could be a question of if the state water plan tracks that committee or not, or do we just let them go? And hey, it's up to them. And if somebody's unhappy with the progress that's being made or something like that, they could reach out to the task force or that point person or the chair of the task force and say, hey, you guys have to develop this sub-task force, and, you know, it's been 3 years and I haven't heard anything or something like that. So the question is, does the task force be responsible for ensuring they move forward, or do we have the committee undertake that effort? But from what I'm hearing from you, you're saying that quarterly reports, you would see that being probably a bit much.
Well, I think if there's something to share, I think like, wait, if there's something to share, we'll definitely want to share. But I don't know at this point of quarterly, like what we're gonna have. I don't know, this could be, this particular group could be short-term, 1 year, it could be something that develops into something else on a longer term basis. Like there's a little bit of self-direction that the group needs to kind of still sort out, right? So can't fully answer. I just think it might be nice to at least have some accountability to the task force area.
Okay. Any other thoughts about quarterly updates or being accountable to the task force for these sub-task force? I know there may be some other pending sub-task force out there. Tara may have one, Brian may have one that he's jumping on, or I myself, or Glenn may be coming up with another one. So I guess I just want to make sure that the interest of the task force is considered whenever we're looking at these. You guys want to hear about these groups that often do. We as a task force have a responsibility to hold these groups accountable, make sure they're making progress.
I think they should be, you know, I'm trying not to be confident that I have to make one of these myself. I don't think quarterly, but I do think, I don't even know if we have to say annually, but I think that there's a purpose why these sub-task forces are generated. There's a need, so I feel like they should report to the task force, and there should be some obligation to make some report Unless in your previous report, you say we're not making progress for a year because of some reason that we stopped. And then we're gonna start up, but I feel like there should be some expectation from the task force to hear progress.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. My thought was exactly what's there, of course. No, they're named here for a reason in this group. They've been identified under the umbrella of State Water Plan Task Force, and we should be accountable for that. At a minimum, and the name, but I did, I was thinking too, Meg, and the term on some of these could be short, and we say, hey, well, you could initiate it, wrap it up quickly, or it could be long, but I think at a minimum, we need an annual update, words,
I kind of agree too. If we're the entity that's forming these task force, then.
Going off of what you just said, if the task force is put together for a thing that will only last 1 year, then having an annual reporting might be just too far away from the results, or the issue. So I think it's dependent on why the task force was put together or assigned. So maybe that should be decided when the task force is developed.
That's
assigned.
That's
Instead of, because if it's say it's a winter problem or something, then maybe we'll have the task force report in the summer, so that everything can be, all the information can be gathered and repeated, and then that comes to a closure.
makes sense. So at least make an initial definition and formation
Yeah.
on the reporting frequency. And if it turns out to be, well, we anticipate this to be a 9-month effort, it turns into be 3 times that, well, the reporting can pop on it. We find that early. I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I think there's an expectation that if you have an update, you would give an update at the report from what happened. And then if not, then there's not a need, such as, in the case of ways, drought responsive, we're in flood for 9 months. I don't think there's, okay, we do have floods right at the same time, so, but if we don't have significant drought, there may not be anything to report for 2 years or something like that, if there's not other actions taken. But again, just kind of clarifying that, yes, there's not been a drought for 2 years, so there's not been.
Eventually, but we don't have a statewide draw quite often. We have a regional draw, maybe each year, but not statewide.
I have a question. Is there a mechanism where these sub-task forces are then dissolved? Then that committee is no longer, it might be like.
Correct, so.
Before it's dissolved.
Correct, so task force and bylaws can be dissolved by that topic lead. So if they have an initiative to develop something, say a report, and they've met that objective, then it makes sense that they would then dissolve that task force, that sub-task force group. So again, it may be in the case where drought response, that may go on in perpetuity, because there's always that potential need. But, Lake Michigan Beach Access, they may do a study or evaluation, come to a conclusion and say, boom, here's our conclusion. And this is what we say, and that was the purpose of that group. So, it could be there, they find out, well, we have this recommendation, but now we need to implement it. And that same group wants to go through and implement, and once the implementation is done, then they dissolve. So, yeah. So it's my understanding, kind of from the group, that we'd at least like to hear from cast members on an annual basis or more frequently as needed. Is there any other official framework that needs to be developed? I think the intent was, and again, this is all open for discussion, if a sub-task force wanted to be formed, that would come at the recommendation of a member to form a task force group. And that can be done at any time under new business. So at every meeting, we have new business. You can make a recommendation at that time, or actually probably any time during the meeting that you see fit. Maybe it's during your topic discussion, but hey, I'd like to do that. It can be voted on, approved. Same with dissolving the task force. But the way we left it at the last meeting also was that once that group is formed, the task force as a whole that meets here is kind of hands off, and it's all in the hands of whoever that connection point is to ensure that they're forming their own group, so to speak, and that the bylaws for our task force would be consistent with what they would have unless they specify otherwise. So same thing with having the 60% for a quorum, all those. So you can, we'll see what those bylaws are. They are on our website. So is there any other questions or thoughts about these subgroups?
Yeah, so what's our next order of business in terms of that? We wrap this up into something more formal, and send it out for other comments?
I mean, this, I don't think this is a voting matter or anything officially approved unless other someone feels otherwise. But I think this was just kind of making sure the group was on bring how to proceed and conduct business. I can kind of write this up in a summary, kind of put it in a document, share that with the group, kind of a formal memo to the task force saying, this is how to proceed. That way, 4 years from now, if Rick's retired and somebody else wants to make a recommendation, that's all on file, so to speak, of the membership.
Well, it's a good reference too, for when the condition sub-task force groups are formed, the operation by which they.
Any other?
A note come up, I don't know if it was a comment, but maybe just check if someone had online, if they were doing chat for questions. Might not have been, but.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, going ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so the only comment I was going to make is just that the majority of other like boards, committees, et cetera, that I've participated in, typically like procedural rules like this get documented in bylaws, and the bylaws are something that gets voted on by the board or committee. And so that was the basis of my comment that I'd put in the chat regarding, are these determinations going to be documented in bylaws and voted upon by the task force? And it's simply just because if we're establishing how we're going to operate, how we're going to establish subcommittees, how we're going to establish sub-task force groups, and how they're going to report back to the board, then, or whatever you're calling this, task force, board, committee, whatever it is, then to me, it would just make sense that gets documented in bylaws and that's something that would get voted upon.
So we do have the bylaws that talk about, you find here, the sub-task force group. So I think we didn't, I guess it's a question of how much detail do you need in the bylaws that it says that you shall make sure you provide an update annually. And maybe, Brian, you can take a look at this to see if it's adequate for what you think is, I guess, communicated in the bylaws, or at what point, I guess, does this require more detail than what's stated here in the bylaws?
I mean, I think even if we were to do that, I think that like an update quarterly, annually, that's not like really burdensome. An update can be as simple as there is no update to provide or no progress has been made. And it's like a 2-second update. But I think that if it's a topic that's important enough to have a subcommittee on or task force group, whatever we're establishing here, then I think, I mean, to me, it does make sense that they would report back to the group. and not just operate in their own silo. I mean, that's kind of the whole basis of this group anyways, is because all of these different agencies are operating in their own silos. And so the basis of this whole task force is really to try to break that down. And so I feel like if you're establishing a sub-task force group that's going to be comprised of a smaller portion of the group, if they're not reporting back to the committee on a regular basis, then what's the point in doing that?
So Brian, are you recommending that we do mandate that it's reported on a quarterly basis at every meeting?
I'm not necessarily saying that, but I do think that I don't think it's unreasonable to do that, though. I think that seems acceptable to me. I don't, because like I said, I don't really think that somebody coming to a meeting and saying that there's nothing to report, like that takes just a couple seconds to do that.
So are you, I guess, based on your earlier statement, would you suggest that we have to change our bylaws to state that?
I mean, I think that it makes sense that we would have it established within the bylaws on if we're establishing one of these sub-task force groups, how frequently they're going to report back to the group. And again, I don't necessarily think that it has to be quarterly, but I think we should be identifying that within the document. Then that way there's like a known expectation for each one of the sub-task force groups on how frequently they're going to report back.
Well, I guess, Brian, I can propose that if you're interested in making a bylaw change, that could be, I guess, the language can be drafted and sent to the members for the next meeting's consideration.
Okay. Sounds reasonable.
I'm not opposed to it if we want to put bylaws. I just didn't know how much detail we put into bylaws for expectations versus mandates. But yeah, I guess I would just suggest that if you want to make a revision, that, prepare a draft and you can share it with me and I can share it with the group.
Sounds good.
Thoughts or comments? Hearing none. Back in the presentation here. So I guess at this point, we'll just go through the section implementation or milestones. So as we do with each meeting, just kind of giving you an update on what's been implemented on your section since the last meeting or any milestones met. So with that, we'll look to Jeff on water quality.
Okay, one of the things that our agency is in the process of doing is we're creating a new section. It's going to have staff who are going to provide direct technical assistance to public water systems. I know there's a lot of need in some cases for that type of technical assistance. So that was, I think, part of our recommendation for water quality and long-term funding. So that's been the big one for that. And the EPA laboratory certified to analyze drinking water samples for 25 PFAS analytes now. So using method 533, and accredited for all 40 PFAS analytes in water, solid sediments, and fish tissue.
Any questions for water quality section?
So that was a recommendation, was to measure for PFAS, I can't remember,
I believe that was, yes.
right? Maybe?
I know the process to get certified was pretty rigorous, so it's a big accomplishment.
Jeff, is there funding associated with sustainable systems that provided by the agency, the test system?
Yeah, they're gonna have staff within the agency to do that.
Here, I will just throw this, for a quick reference. This is, and thank you to all. I think I got updates from almost everybody. So that was great. I appreciate it. So I'll just kind of go through this. You guys, any other questions or comments for Jeff?
I just dropped off some fish in with the lab. We're gonna test for some living bugs this morning before being here. So thank you.
I'll pass that on.
Okay. Next, we have climate change. I don't think Dave is here. I guess, Trent, do you want to step in and?
Yeah, I'm happy to step in. He's not on mine. I want to make sure. He said he was going to stay Dave.
I am here, actually.
Dave, would you like to go on ahead?
Sure, although Trent can do it just as well, but let me go ahead and go through it quickly. You know, the topics range from completed through 10% awaiting funding. One that I think I want to point out is a topic on expanding climate monitoring sites in sensitive areas, and headed by Jenny Atkins. And the water survey is, one second. The water survey is partnering with the Department of Climate, Meteorology, and Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Illinois in developing a Illinois 3D mesonet. And there was a statewide meeting in April to discuss the climate data needs. And proposals have been submitted for to conduct a pilot project that was submitted by U of I, and that's just awaiting funding decisions and reviews. The other issues, two topics by Glenn Highstand are developing web-based climate toolkits and developing a detailed local climate model. Those are part of the proposed Integrated Water Information Center. If Glenn is there, do you want to add anything to this?
I am here, and this, the Illinois Integrated Water Information Center is still just something on paper at this point, and we're still looking at putting meat on the bones of that that center, and actually Wes Couture and I are leading a call on Monday to try to get some better traction on moving ahead with that. But in the past few years, it's been up against lack of funding to do anything with it. So that's kind of we don't have a lot of the details in place, but we also don't have the funding in that. So.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. There were, one of our goals was to conduct research and develop online tools to illustrate concurrent climate events. There are various aspects of this. This past year, we submitted a proposal to National Science Foundation to look at some winter hazards, concurrent hazards, and that was turned down. But we've gotten some great feedback, and we will be resubmitting that proposal very soon. So that would help us to move ahead a little bit on our fourth task. We said we would work on research and developing online tools to illustrate agricultural practices, how they affect crops and climate. Again, this is needs additional funding to continue or to move along on this. We have submitted a proposal on tool development for limiting drift of dicamba spray. And since dicamba spray has been approved again for use, this was a very good topical issue to try to pursue. So I'll let you know how that proposal goes. The remaining issues are, Trent, did you have anything you want to say on updating existing rainfall data or evaluating impacts and providing information about flash droughts?
Yeah, sure. The update existing rainfall data is 100% complete. The goals 35, goals 76, written and published. So those are fantastic. Of course, that's something we want to come back to periodically as things are changing. And for flash drought work, yeah, we've had some NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration funded work to study flash drought in the Midwest. It's ongoing, and precarious nature of federal funding means that we'll have to work hard with future funding to better understand flash drought, but certainly it's still on the radar too. I'll also say real quick that the potential expansion of the Illinois Mesonet is something that mentioned for that first task is probably the best opportunity to expand monitoring beyond the 20 stations that we have currently. So that's really great. And then on the web-based toolkits, there is a little bit completed there. So my office has been working with IEMA and IDPH. We have an online climate data portal that can provide kind of the baseline for updated future climate information for there. So that's wrong. Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you, Trent. And that's all I have for this section. So there's varying degrees of progress and depending almost entirely on federal grant funding that we're seeking and state funding for the Integrated Water Information Center. So thank you.
Do you have any questions for the climate section?
I do. What you just mentioned, last week I wasn't able to attend, but from U of I, they had a climate hub and IEMA partnership talk. They came into IEMA last week and talked, and it was from Ashish Sharma. Climate hub, and I just want to make sure that we're, I don't know if that was from Chicago or you guys. And the hub caught my eye and make sure is it part of IWIC. There just seems like there's several things going on, the Mesonet, the 3D. We have some great opportunities, but I want to make sure we're all tracking and coordinating. And that one was new to me. Is that something you guys are working on? Is it something the state water plan should know about?
So that is from Discovering Partners Institute, which is part of the UVI, but separate from the water survey and prairie research and everything. So we work some with them, but not on all these initiatives that we touched on. What Ashish presented on is more of a experimental kind of forecasting. The uses of the term climate, the use of the term hub are maybe not the best for that product. And so we've been talking with Ashish, but the Discovery Partners Institute folks tend to work separately. So I didn't know he gave the talk to IEMA. But that's something we're trying to follow to see as it's updated, how it rolls into this. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. But you're right, there are a lot of initiatives. I mean, some of this stuff, Northwestern is doing, Chicago alone, Argonne is working on their own things. So it's a full-time job just to keep up on all the entities within Illinois who are working on anything that could be labeled climate-related things. And some are happy to talk with us and some aren't so much. So it's something I struggle with myself.
Sure. No, you answered. I appreciate that. I was just we definitely want to keep on the pulse if it is something we can bring into IWIC or even, IEMA as we partner moving forward.
Yeah, and she should reached out to me about a contact at IEMA and, so kind of stemmed from.
Yeah, I didn't get to go, so I didn't know about it, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you again. Any questions for the climate section? Anything else? Hearing none, we'll move on to the integrated water management section. Probably the biggest thing that we're still trying to push forward on is that we have our kickoff meeting a week from today for the IWIC. We have kind of identified a committee to just get the ball rolling. So we'll have hopefully a lot more to share after that kickoff meeting, but we got that on the schedule, and Glenn and I are working closely together to get that committee up and running. Other than that, not a whole lot, I think, that has been pushing forward. I don't think there's any other, I'm just looking over the list, I don't see any other big priorities. There was the development for the identification of prioritizing underserved communities. And that was completed actually back in, based on a prior definition. So again, there wasn't a whole lot. We just went with the Illinois admin code. I think there may have been some other recommendations that were waiting for that to be developed. I think I may have mismarked that. I think that was this in 2025. So just an FYI. So that's all I really have for significant milestones on integrated water management. Anybody have any questions on any of these recommendations?
I do. Sorry. Number 2, we did get it, at General Assembly that this is a State Water Task Force, but along with that, originally we were gonna ask for funding, and a lot of the recommendations in the task force cannot be completed until we get funding. So I was wondering, do we have any plans to move forward, or were we shut down and this was all we're gonna get and we're
So
gonna?
when we went through the legislative process, that was one of the first questions they asked is, are you going to be, or do you require funding for this legislation to move forward? So we were kind of directed to pull back the mandate to mandate that funding be included with that. So it becomes a question, and it's something we've gone back and forth on, is does funding come from this piece for all 144 recommendations or wherever we're at right now? Or should each of those go and seek those individually? And I think that the question kind of lends towards more the latter, is that, hey, if there's a recommendation here that requires funding, it's not for the topic lead of integrated management to go get your funding for you for this recommendation, because I can't speak on climate or I can't speak on water quality issues. So I wouldn't be the best entity to go get that funding for those recommendations. It just wouldn't make sense at all because I don't have that area of expertise. Now, can somebody from water quality or climate come to the task force and say, we're pushing this forward to ask for funding. We would like the task force to sign on as a recommendation for this funding. Then yes, I think that's kind of more the mode of the task force, is to garner the support for that initiative. But it may not be for the task force to go ask for themselves because they don't have the area of expertise to speak to when those questions come up. I guess that can be open for discussion, but that's how we kind of proceeded. And again, we had to pull back that funding piece to get that legislation for the task force to officially be formed.
No, I appreciate it. I just thought all of us should know that. Maybe everyone knew but me. I know originally we got funding to develop it way back, the old one. We got funding to write the task force update. We all did this volunteering last time. We all know that. We've all supported it. And it's just good to let everyone know that, yes, you have to get your own funding. So if you didn't know like me, now you know.
And regarding that prior funding, I think you're referring to the 1984 report, when that was done, it was, yeah, there was funding, but it came from the federal side, not the state side.
Of course.
So there was federal grant available to write state water plans at that time, and that's where the funding came from, is my understanding. So a little bit before my time, but in reading this. Yeah.
Thank you.
So. Any other questions? And with the talking of funding, we'll move on to the long-term funding section. I don't think Don's on the call. Jeff, do you have an update for us?
Yes.
All right.
All right. And this one is more related to having updating technology and things. Our agency is in the process of seeking proposals for a new environmental information management system. It's going to replace paper-based processes and siloed databases for a unified digital platform across all of our programs in the agency. It's intended to streamline the permitting, compliance enforcement, and financial oversight, and improving the data quality, accessibility, and transparency for staff and the regulated. So they're seeking those proposals right now. I know there's a lot of discussion going on about it internally. Would hopefully get our data in a better shape on the water side, especially to coordinate some of the other things going on.
Jeff, I know one thing, speaking of that we have talked about, and I think it's kind of fell by the side because of various regulations, but talking about data and transparency was the State Water Survey has the Illinois Water Inventory Program that collects water use data, but it's very volunteer based, even though it's legislatively mandated. There's not any way to really enforce that. And I think there's been questions in the past is that can we couple these systems that EPA has for their community water service data collection and their water use with that IWIP. So it may be an offline conversation if there's a way to bring those two together so that we can get more efficiencies within our government for that. So
I think the intent broadly is just within the agency, get the data into better coordination. That would make it a lot easier, I think, to coordinate with others.
So if we wanted to further that discussion, who would be the good point of contact at EPA?
I'll find out.
So Jeff is just nominating himself to be that point? No. All right, thank you, Jeff, I appreciate it. Any other updates on?
Well, I mean, the long-term funding goes back to the technical assistance for public water supply.
I just didn't want to
cover both. So.
I want to make sure you didn't have anything further before.
No, I thought it'd go with just the big ones.
Okay. Any questions for long-term funding section? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to water sustainability. Way.
Yes, so for water sustainability, water supply planning, we have 5 out of 10 regions currently doing planning work actively. We are also doing Rock River region contract. This is the northwestern Illinois region. All these regions covers 93% of Illinois population. Also starting this week, we began the bathymetric survey at Lake Vandalia at the request of City of Vandalia. The survey result will prove and the local community the first-hand water availability condition. We created the drought subtask group from last meeting but we haven't had a kickoff meeting yet, but we plan to do so, in the near future. The current Central Illinois drought condition give us, a good reason to do so. We also make progress on the evaluation assessment, minimum spring flow protection tasks. I will let Jason from State Water Survey to update those task information. I believe they have completed a literature review on the evaluation assessment. Is that right, Jason?
Yes.
Yeah, so they have made a significant progress on this task. Jason?
Yeah, we have, our staff has reviewed, all the available approaches on estimating lake evaporations and discussed with IDNR, and we are going to internal discussion in water survey that will proceed with selected methods, to estimate the lake evaporation for the water supply lakes in our state, primarily in the southern part of the state, but we'll select lakes in the northern part of the state as well. So that's the lake evaporation stuff, and I see my name is also added at the water use accuracy with outreach and between. So I'll actually work with Walt Kelly, who I mean was the contact for this issue and understand what is it there, but I can see, the plan is seeking funds for $50,000 for FY 2028. So I need to understand better what's the context of that.
Wait, anything else?
Okay, that's all I have.
I just want to kind of point out, and Mike, I'm not sure if you guys know, we've done it before, and this kind of goes out to everybody. The surveying capabilities at OWR, whether it's going out and getting back on bathymetry. We've had it for our fisheries group before, but if there's also water supply lakes that EPA would have any interest in, we have that capability. So we work with State Water Survey on hydraulic modeling surveys, so there is some capabilities. Often we'll get a request from a community just to go out and do some survey, and we kind of provide that service out to communities or other agencies or offices within our agency. So just an FYI, if there's an interest there, there's obviously not a open reign, we have limited resources, but it is things that we do try and help out our constituents, our, fellow agencies and offices to help out with. So, feel free to reach out to, myself if you have, interest or, need for that. So again, thank you, Wade. Is there any other questions or comments for the water sustainability section? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the Lake Michigan section.
Sure, and Wes, I apologize, I'm delinquent in sending you my updates, so those are a little out of date, but I'll just speak to some updates. And I don't have process updates, I assume that's Steve would have updated on too today. So we are continuing to represent the state in the Great Lakes Coastal Resiliency Study, which is in partnership with all the Great Lakes states and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We are moving a lot, we are in a place where we're helping the Corps gather data, put together some fact sheets that will be disseminated early next year, and putting together some data information regarding vulnerability assessment of some of our coastal resources and assets here in Illinois. So looking to sort of dive into that more deeply with them in the early part of 2026. There is a website that I can share with Wes to share with the team if folks want continued updates from the Corps on that initiative. We just finished up a coastal resilience guide for the Illinois North Shore communities. It comes with an interactive data viewer that includes coastal planning data and resources. It's called iShore. Those will be disseminated before the end of this month. We're pretty excited about that too. And we continue our partnership with the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative to support coastal resilience and planning projects for Illinois coastal communities. So starting to talk with folks at our Chicago and Falls Park District to support some engineering design for coastal resilience projects over there. And our subcommittee on access, accessibility, and use of Lake Michigan public beaches is still in formation. We've had a lot of interest from community members and advocates, so keeping a running list of all those folks so that we can be sure to engage when we have more information. We have not met yet. We are still developing our recommendations for committee members and framework and structure. Obviously, today's discussion is informing a lot of the operation or of how that will be operated. See, so we don't get the timeline and outline for this work is still being developed, so I will continue to keep everyone here posted, as well as our communities. I had previously reported that we were in the process of applying for some grant programs for the coastal resilience initiatives. We received 2 recently that sort of hot off the presses, haven't had a chance to even announced yet, but federal awards that were received recently, almost $6 million for ravine, shoreline, and bluff and near shores stabilization at the John and Jane Green Nature Preserve in Lake Forest, which is very exciting. So that was $6 million from NOAA to support that. And then another $500,000 from US EPA Great Lakes Restoration Initiative funds to for some invasive species management control in Square Marsh, which is on Lake Calumet, part of a much broader restoration plan initiative for that work. So it's also very exciting. We continue our outreach and engagement initiatives around coastal issues, and just had an event for the Illinois Beach State Park on Saturday over the weekend. It had 150 attendees, which we're super excited about, and included partners from Natural History Survey, other folks at PRI, Steve Grant, other folks at DNR. So it was just a really nice event with lots of partners and lots of different water topics being discussed and educated about. We had to pause on finishing the score. I think I reported one of the last time in the April meeting that we'd had 11 proposals to our coastal grants competition. We had a pause on scoring those and really, just feeling out the federal funding sort of temperature of what was going to happen there. Happy to say we can now resume our scoring and working with grantees, whoever the grantees who are selected, to adjust the timeline and work plans around that. So haven't announced those grantees yet, but we did get our federal award on that. So that was also great news. And we have formed and held 2 meetings of our Coastal Clean Waters Advisory Group, which is helping advise and prioritize some work, including work we're doing with Water Survey around the water quality trends analysis and travel.
Is there any questions on the Lake Michigan section? Hearing none, we'll go on to our next section of flood data mitigation. Tara?
Okay, as was already mentioned, and I keep mentioning it because I want you guys to know that it's out there, that Bulletin 76, it talks about future climate impacts to rainfall data. So if you're doing, I know not everyone here does modeling, but it tells what rainfall might be in the future based on some of those different climate projections that we're experiencing. So it's really just know that it's out there, and if people, let people know that you might work with. The hydraulic model database that we're working on, we're working with State Water Survey. We're about a quarter of the way done. We've got our framework, and we're going to be inputting all the metadata related to all the hydraulic modeling that the State Water Survey's done. And we're just documenting some specific information so that people have a contact if they want to do, or they're doing a new project in an area. And it's going to be a GIS-based map that you can click on, and you can see what models were done for that area and where and when and who to contact. So that's ongoing, but that State Water Survey is gonna do their data first, and then OWR is gonna add on models, and then we're gonna keep opening it up each year. We'll reach out to the Corps and for consultants to see if they want to put their data or at least a contact information. So that was going quite well. The inundation mapping and our structural, I guess our items 4 and 5, we just continue to work on those projects. Those are areas trying to show what areas of the state might have more damage related to floods. And that will always help us with our decision to target priority areas in the state where funding should be initiated. And as Wes mentioned, we were sort of waiting to see what the state water plan, how we defined underserved communities, and then we were gonna try and target. So I've got to work with IEMA. They have some of their leads on some of these. So I have to get with Zach now that we know what that criteria is, how to move forward, because a lot of the recommendations were being separated for that. And that's all I've got right now. So I'll get with Zach after we call. Zach, if you're still there, look for me. But while I have the floor, we talked about a subcommittee being for floods. And honestly, I was a little confused last time because we have a flood section. So we have flood damage mitigation section and we have our 15 recommendations. But that several of the group expressed a need to have a subcommittee, and I didn't quite understand what that was for. We got a couple names, some agencies that wanted to be involved. And I don't know if it was, anyway, I open it up. There's the one that's a little different. We don't want subcommittees of something we already have a topic. But if there's a subtopic within floods that we want to meet on, maybe after this meeting, come talk to me, because I've lost a little bit of where that was supposed to go. And then I will set one up if that's what the group had wanted. Wes, do you have anything to add on that flood subcommittee or your interpretation of why we were discussing it?
No, I think it's more, and, you know, because there's interest in forming a group, doesn't need to be a subtask group. No, it doesn't need to be. You know, is it more of a, you know, if your committee kind of is already formed and you have that, I guess, I'm not sure what the exact purpose would be, so that would need to be flushed out first before you would kind of evaluate internally if this is met by just meeting as your, you know, committee of this topic, or if you have a different initiative that you're trying to accomplish that really needs to be its own separate group, and it's a separate set of people, and we have a set purpose for that group.
I'll look back at the minutes and see who wanted to be on that committee, because quite a few of you expressed an interest. And then I will reach out via email and find out what the goal of that group was. So does anyone here have a comment? I wasn't sure where that was supposed to go, so I'll follow up.
Any questions for the flood mitigation section? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to aquatic and riparian habitat. Looking, Brian, I know Brian had to take off, so I think we may have missed some. That's my fault. I should probably.
I'm still here, Wes. I don't have any updates this quarter. Hopefully next one.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Is there any questions for the aquatic habitat section? Brian, is there, I'm trying to find the recommendation. I was curious, there's something on there about the wetland legislation. I think there's some work that had been done early on. Is that going anywhere, or is that kind of just kind of lost all traction and isn't going following kind of that being shot down legislatively? Can you speak to that at all?
I can speak to what I know about it, Wes. My understanding is that there are still some discussions about it. It may not be quite as hot as it was a year ago. but some of the details are still being worked out. I know that our agency is still working towards laying down the foundation for what regulation would look like based on those, based on a new act. But I haven't heard any progress on the act itself for several months.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the update.
No problem.
Anybody else have any questions? Hearing none, water use law and regulations. I believe Steve jumped on the line. Trying to block the shadow on my computer here. Steve, are you there?
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, yeah. One of the things that we're looking at, kind of parallel with with the Lake Michigan team, is the applicability of using allocated water for cooling for data centers, and it's at least what I've seen so far. It should be being used given the amount of stress that's on the Lake Michigan system right now. That's one thing that I've been working on. I know Dr. Wade had.
Steve, I think you're kind of cutting out a little bit. Your voice is coming and going. Are you there?
Okay. Yeah, I'm still here. What did you hear?
I think you started cutting out whenever you started mentioning Wade.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was getting ready to hand it over to him, so if he's ready to go.
Okay, we'll discuss about that. Yeah. We haven't talked about that, but we'll talk about that.
So I know it's a big topic right now that's hitting not only Illinois a lot, but all the states, I think. I was just in Atlanta and we toured a data center and spent essentially the whole day just talking about water demand and data centers and everything. So I think there's going to be a lot of more discussion coming. You know, they've talked about, was it hyperscale? And now Illinois is going to quantum scale data centers, whatever that means exactly. But this is something that I think the ball is definitely 50 yards past this, and we're almost trying to play catch up on these data centers. There's just a huge demand on the power grid and a huge demand on water for these data centers. And I think they're trying to get out and get as much done before some of these regulations come in, especially in Illinois. So I think it's going to be a bigger and bigger topic. We continue to have to investigate and evaluate on how we balance the resources we have in Illinois, particularly the water. And, you know, are we going to start using Lake Michigan water for this or not? And is that going to hinder economic growth in some areas if we do start putting these stipulations? So I think it's an interesting topic that I'm looking forward to hearing more on.
Wes, just to add to your comment on the data centers, there's a new proposal here locally for a data center just south of Springfield. That data center is going to be about 245 acres, basically 24 buildings that will cover 26 football fields. It is going to be adjacent to what they call Black Diamond Solar Facility, which is one of the largest solar facilities east of the Mississippi. That solar facility is roughly 3,200 acres, all set on prime farmland. I think a bigger concern with that water use is on the north end of Lake Springfield watershed, so which is a single point source. So yeah, we're going to use large amounts of water and beat with drinking water. I think that project's estimated like $600 million. It was in the SGR a couple days ago.
Yeah. So specifically about the type of cooling that they'll use there.
It didn't give any specifics. It just laid out the infrastructure, what it was going to cost, what the building sizes were, where it's adjacent to. It's just north of there.
I think they were just going to do with. I think they were just going to use electrical and cool that way. is what I think was inferred in the article.
To that solar field, so.
I don't think the solar fields would even be adequate to power something that size, though.
But I think the infrastructure is there probably for them to look into.
Yeah. I forget, I'd have to check my notes. They said something, something quite large to
Sure.
For solar to take care of the electrical demand these days. I'm curious if they're gonna have a public meeting on that at any point.
There was a request for a special use permit, because that would have to take that zoning from agricultural to industrial, so it's on the, probably the county board.
Yeah.
And so there would be a meeting for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm guessing it won't be the last one in the area either. So, yeah, good topic and one I'm sure we're gonna return to in the future. Any other questions on the water use laws and regulations?
Hi, this is Yifeng Lin from Water Resource Center. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, sorry, I couldn't hear the audio very well. On the previous discussion for the solar and farmland, is that in the Logan County?
It's in Sangamon.
Second, okay. Okay, well, the reason I'm asking is also recently I heard Logan County is facing the same thing too. And there are some new proposal on the data centers, and they are going to use their solar electricity, and then probably will build on the farmland on that. And so this thing is definitely is going on many places. And then just to share the information with the group here, and right now I'm chairing a national committee also on the water for the AI infrastructure development, which largely including data centers. So we are also in a close communication with other states like Virginia, Arizona, Ohio, who has been facing a very significant growth of the data center and facing the water resource constraint, and then local pushback. For example, in Arizona, a few months ago, probably on the national news, people have seen one of the called Project Blue by Amazon. I think 3.6 billion project got pushed back by Tucson residents because of the water constraint. And then after a few weeks, Amazon come back and say, well, thank you, we are building anyway. And then same thing is happening in Louisiana on Meta's project, 20 billion. So I want to use this opportunity to kind of bring this to our task force attention, and these could come to our desk very, very soon on it. And then at the same time, I'm also in communication with State Senator Elman and Fauci. Both of them are very concerned on this topic. And then at the state level, they, I'm sorry, at the regional, Great Lake regional levels, next week, there will be 2 resolutions related to this to be voted in. One is related to water reuse, one is related to the water energy nexus for the AI infrastructure on that. So I'm happy to provide more information as things going on. And anybody on this team is interested on this topic, feel free to contact me. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go on to Brian McCoy with navigation.
I'm Ron McCoy, and I don't have a lot of stuff here with navigation. I'd like to highlight a couple of current updates regarding funding. Illinois Department of Transportation created a state-funded program for local roads. It was $400 million, and that opened up the opportunity with the very open language on projects. All local roads, local projects was available, and that opened up for 4 districts for projects to apply. 4 projects that are port related, received funding for $4.8 million. And 2 of those were ferry boats that are, that have some agency elements to it. So that's a success as we're trending towards providing more funding for navigation and green transportation projects. Try to improve that. Still, we have efforts to try to funnel more state funds to help with the needs in the state. There is a project that IDOT has, it was awarded to a consultant to update a couple of projects that on port districts, and it's a needs assessment. Needs assessment will help us identify what are the additional requirements for the economic benefits that we have in the state. There isn't too much else, maybe seeing some federal funding trends for waterways that are trending up. Infrastructure development, port infrastructure development program, they have provided additional funds. I think they pulled back some rescinded funds from elsewhere. The additional $50 million was provided to that. Some success with that. We're still waiting to hear back from the awarded projects. Should have it maybe sometime in the federal funding situation clears up. And I do have an interest to look at some of these sections in here. It looks like, so what we're targeting for navigation is what you see is maintain and upgrade port infrastructure on Lake Michigan and inland waterways. We have dredging, locks and dams. We have all the elements of the navigation. And then at the top, there is a maintain and upgrade the Illinois Marine Transportation System infrastructure, which seems like an overlap from all the other more detailed sections. And I might want to take a look at that and clarify that and change that. So it's more clear. It's a very generic statement. I've been kind of putting some updated information in there, and I just want to make sure it's very clear in this report for the future. I think it might cover some more things like maybe ferry boats or something like that, or something that's not like locks and dams, port infrastructure on the shoreline, channel depth maintenance. All these elements are all called out. They're more significant. It's kind of a coverall for maybe all the other things. But what does that mean? So maybe like an et cetera or example or something like that. That might be helpful to somebody look at this and be like, I don't know what that means at all, really. So I think that would be helpful in the future. So, that's all I got for this section.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions for navigation? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to our next section. We'll turn it over to Brian for erosion and sedimentation.
Sure. Several updates within this. I'll just kind of go down the list. I heard earlier I mentioned about dicamba on the proposal for, there is a federal allowance for the 25-26 crop year for dicamba. But going forward, Illinois will still impose its current dicamba rules, so it exceeds what the federal guidelines are. So we'll just keep going forward with what is on our state statute. Also, we're working on a new loss reduction dashboard. So this will be real-time data instead of the previous reports that we do is basically reporting on the historical data. We're about 75% along the way. We've been working on it for about a year. We've got the nutrient loss reduction strategy conference November 5th, the Idaho Hotel in Champaign. That is the annual conference. Kind of going down the list, number 3, STAR. We've incorporated that with a couple different programs. The Department of Ag STAR is Saving Tomorrow's Agricultural Resources. It's a free online assessment tool that farmers can use to kind of gauge where they're at with sediment and erosion in farming practices. So now any farmer farmer operator that uses PFC dollars, that is a requirement. We've inquired in a couple of other programs that I'll talk to here in a little bit. Number 6, we partnered with NRCS for planning for conservation initiative. So we've taken $3.5 million of state invested with NRCS for 9.5 for a total of about $12.95 million. So that is basically creating a conservation employee pipeline. So as the last 4 years, we had a huge influx of conservation dollars. Well, that was great, but we also had a lack of employees to put that conservation in the ground. So we partnered with NRCS to develop this pipeline. We're in year 3 of our agreements, working on our 4th. We've put through about 37 employees that are now technically trained through NRCS for conservation engineering statuses. We'll work our way down. Number 7. So that is sedimentation survey. We are looking at a new way to do that. We used to do it visually. We took basically about 6,000 random points across the state and divided it into the 97 small water districts, and they would go out and record and see what type of conservation material, et cetera, was left in the fields. So now we're switching over to satellite survey. It's a little more accurate. It's a lot safer. It costs us a lot less. So we're going to do it. I think we're looking at March to do a test study to see how that is going to work out. Number 7, I just covered that. Number 12. So we've done a batch and build for edge of field. Iowa's had a really successful model within that. We started small. We've got about $250,000 for edge of field practices. What's made Iowa's really good is they've taken an area to where a contractor can show up and do, we'll say, 5 or 6 projects. Keeps the cost down. It gets the contractor a little more into it instead of doing, because a lot of these edge of fields are they're in square footage instead of acres. So it's more attractive for a contractor like, oh, well, I've got 7 different projects that I can land here once. And for us, it's cheaper because when you move equipment, it costs you more money. So we just do a one-time fee. Moving on down for 15. To define secure federal funding for soil erosion and sedimentation. So from here, the next 5 years, the Department of Ag is going to move roughly about $100 million for conservation in about 3 different programs. The biggest one is our Climate Smart Ag program through, I'm going to use CPRG with basically it's greenhouse gas reduction dollars. The department was a subrecipient of IEPA for EPA funding. That funding that they received from was roughly $435 million, and the department received $72 million of that for carbon reduction through tillage. So basically, right now we're in the prelims of holding a no-till and strip-till sign-up, which will be a 3-year agreement if you're selected, and that is you're either going to do strip-till or no-till, or you're currently doing strip-till and no-till. But you have to sign up the same fields for 3 consecutive years if you're going to enroll in the program. We have another program it's an RCPP through NRCS, it's called iCover. Basically that is taking you have to either use new technology or an earlier seeding date for cover crops to be eligible. New technology is either drone or robotics for that. And I think we have one more. 3. Actually, no, it's just those 2 are what's ongoing. So with the federal government shutdown, we have all but our conservation planners that are status. So the RCPP, we've been told that we can move to, and our CPRG is actually those dollars are in the state fund. So we are exempt from that. Develop new and expanding and existing incentives. So we partnered with corn growers, and in NRCS, we brought some new EQIP dollars. This happened last fall and into this winter. Unused state EQIP dollars that come from a different state. And then corn growers had, so that was 5 million. Corn growers had an already at 5 million. So $10 million that we earmarked for, we're gonna call it for air, because we can't use dust because of the way soil is classified within Illinois. So basically it's for strip till, no-till, cover crops, shelter belts, and windbreaks along I-72, I-55, and I-74 within a 2-mile radius of those interstates. So that was through, like I said, NRCS equip. They did 2 signups, and that's what it took to expend that $10 million of funding for those practices.
You said radius, do you mean like buffer around?
So if you drop a pin in the middle of the interstate, you go 2 miles each way.
Right, so, okay.
And then expand, so we'll go down to 21, expand funding to support NRS. IEPA had Gulf hypoxia dollars, which were passed to us to further fall coverage for spring savings, which is a cover crop incentive that the department is on year 6 of. Basically, if you have crop insurance and you plan to cover crop, you're eligible. If you apply for that, those funds are eligible to you. And then lastly, expand the Department of Ag staffing. So the last couple of years have been really good to the department with filling vacancies. We're sitting right at 90% vacancies. We have just 2 left. Those are just kind of sitting in the HR portal waiting for the check marks to kind of go through. We actually have, since we have some new grants, we're actually going to have more staffing than what we've had. So I think we're going to have 2 additional staff to help manage the federal grants that we have. So we're going to have a larger headcount than we've had in the last 25 years. That's all I got.
You can, Brian. Question, you mentioned funding for drone and then robotics. Was it seeding or
Cover crop seeding, yeah.
cover crop?
Yes.
The drone, I can give, what are some examples of robotic seeding?
So I don't remember the name of it, but you'll buy it. It's got a couple different robots that run, that do seeding. So that's how we just label it generically once it covered. So I think the way it's written in the RCPP is the way it means in robotics.
Okay.
So that doesn't include harvesters when they fall?
Nope. So it's new technology.
New.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to Jason, data management.
Yeah, for first recommendation, assessing stream gauge navigability, State Water has prepared a draft scope of work and presented to DNR, OWR. And what we found is, the funding to continue this work will be difficult. So the Water Survey Director, Jana, agreed to at least partially fund the study. And she actually convened the group of scientists at Water Survey. So we'll start the initial analysis of stream gauge navigability in the near future. And like I said, Water Survey has, funded the preliminary analysis. For the full-scale analysis, I don't know if Jen has to, manage to fund the full scale. That's I need to ask her, but at least she's funding, phase 1 study. And that's ongoing. And for the second one, create a working group to explore feasibility of stream gauge collaborative. Jen has agreed to contact the colleague at USGS to gain more insights about the historic annual stream gauge coordinator meetings, which didn't happen for years. And as you mentioned, you may have some contact there that we can look into to see if we can use that as contact to restart this group. So that's primary updates that I have on the data management. The last one is about IWIG. I don't know if you.
No, I think we already covered it in the integrated water.
Okay.
And the climate section, so. Yeah. Any questions for Jason on data management? Yeah. Move on to recreation. Michael.
Yeah, a few things. We had changes, I'm past number 5, we had in 2024, 7 cooperative fisheries management agreements were proposed. So a cooperative fisheries management agreement is an agreement between the division of the department and what, generally they're with the municipality or a county, sometimes the NGO, sometimes the federal government with the private water body essentially. We enter into the agreement, we provide the fishery population monitoring, we can provide regulation for that and go into our administrative regulations, law for site specific fishery populations, and we also provide stocking. We had 7 proposals in 2024, the last one was finalized at the beginning of summer, maybe, or late spring. So several of those, unfortunately, for 2025, we suspended entering into new agreements by the staff limitation. It takes up staff time to go out and monitor the population and work on setting regulations, but law enforcement, but play into that too much. But and then the hatchery side of it, producing extra fish or delivering extra fish becomes a little bit less. So for now, we suspended that. Hopefully, calendar year 26 or FY 27, get back into taking on more proposals. See how it goes. We're taking our steps toward moving towards the mobile app for angling information. Our first step is developing our new fisheries website, and then the second step is getting a new database for fisheries population management data, basically all the fisheries information, all the fish we sampled over the years. We're slated to go live with the website in, I think, May. That got back down to October. Now it would be first. It's supposed to be November 1st on that. The procurement of the database. Try to do the procurement and have that done externally. Should begin. So they begin returning the database and then get those steps in place and works through. And then along those lines, the database is instrumental in developing outreach waterway access. All the regulations we vote to delineate all the public access, the public waters throughout, especially for the foot anglers or for recreation for foot anglers. So that don't have to go behind, that be rivers, streams, or even lake access. So hopefully we get all that data in one place and working together.
Any questions for Mike? All right. Hearing none. Next comments, I guess, just kind of open it up. If there's anybody who has any new business they'd want to propose or share with the group.
I'd like to ask a question. The federal shutdown, does anybody know of any significant impacts that Brandon Road being completed? Is it delays or anything like that? Or something that I'd like to know. Anybody?
Is it Brandon Road?
Yeah, Brandon Road, locked in.
Yeah, so, I guess there's quite a few of us here in the agency who regularly participate in meetings, meeting at least one daily, every day of the week, seems like a penny more. We had that question posed over the weekend as well with the announcement of significant amount, was $11 million being withheld from the federal government for various number of states. I've not heard anything specifically in reference to the Brandon Road project to date. So if there is something that's being circulated, we've not been made aware of it. But certainly will, should we hear, we'll move something. That's a fair question. It's the one that triggered internally immediately as well, but, we've not.
I'd want to put it out there, yeah. If there's a question, if there's a meeting or something like that, just, let me know. I definitely want to get a close hold on, if there's a significant action that's going to impede or slow down or cause issues with funding or, the projected completion date of that, then, get an early notification, or at least have some, opportunity for input or provide some additional support for that. There's follow-on effects of the navigation and stuff like that. So,
Absolutely. I don't know, I'm sure you may or may not have been tracking, but just with regard to that project, the next piece, the next big hurdle from the sponsored side, which is Illinois, Michigan, was the acquisition of what they call the right to send back property needed for the next increment of construction. And that was achieved. So we did clear that pathway for continued construction, should there be continuing.
Anything else on new business? Hearing none, I'll open it up if anybody has any comments from the public, if they'd like to. Yes, if you just want to introduce yourself and.
Yep, sure. Yeah, I'm Devin McAllister. I serve on the executive committee of the Chicago chapter of the Surfrider Foundation. These comments in relation to the formation of the new sub-task force on Lake Michigan beach access. I'd like to start by just thanking this task force and Meg for all of their work on that issue. And tell you a bit about the Surfrider Foundation. So the Surfrider Foundation is a nonprofit. We're dedicated to protecting the waterways and beaches for everyone to enjoy. We believe that our oceans and Great Lakes are treasures that need to be safeguarded for current and future generations. We also believe that everyone should be able to enjoy the water, regardless of how much money they have or what they look like or the language that they speak. Those are parts of our mission: environmental protection and equitable access go hand in hand. People to enjoy the water, that's it, but just as important in order for people to care about the water. In terms of beach access, Surfrider has been involved in over 130 successful campaigns to improve beach access. We have chapters all around the country on every coast, the Gulf Coast, the Atlantic Coast, Pacific Coast. These campaigns, so we have a proven track record of working with stakeholders to break down barriers and allow more people to enjoy this kind of beautiful coast fun. And I know the new task force sub-task force is still being determined. But I'd like to advocate for the inclusion of the Surfrider Foundation and other nonprofits in that sub-task force. If the sub-task force is primarily composed of municipalities and park districts, my concern is that there's going to be a strong bias towards restrictions on access and recreation. Most municipalities and park districts on the Illinois coastline have quite onerous and oftentimes inequitable restrictions on beach access. Meg mentioned Lake Forest receiving money from NOAA for some coastal restoration. Lake Forest charges non-residents $25 per person to access their beach. So a family of five, that's $125. If you imagine you just want to go to the beach for a few hours, $125 is quite a lot. In addition, they charge $910 if you want to use their parking, if you're not listening. $910. There's no dailies or anything. If you want to park at that beach, it's $910. Kenilworth has no daily passes to access its beach. A family of five, and you can buy a $600 season pass. If you want to go kayaking in Evanston on a summer weekend, you would need to purchase a $300 seasonal permit. Surfrider represents large and diverse group of recreational users and beachgoers. We have a vested interest in this issue, and would love to be a part of this. Reaching out to us and engaging us in outreach is very appreciated, but having a seat at the table, with us and other nonprofits, I really feel like we create the most holistic and fair and complete view of this important issue. So I'd like to just finish by again thanking this entire task force, thank you, Med. I know this is a lot of work and it's a big undertaking, so I really appreciate your time and your effort and your interest in beach access on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Hearing none, I guess we'll move on. Really, the next thing we have is just, next meeting will be January 12th. We'll be moving back to virtual. At this time is when I usually post, or required to post our planned meetings for the year. So I just wanted to throw up each of the dates for 2026. Hard to say that already, to start talking about 2026, but this would be the calendar layout for our 2026 meetings. Again, these aren't set in stone, so if anybody has any concerns of any of these dates, let me know, or provide your thoughts. I think I had to bump April's up a week early because I had some conflicts, but again, these can all be open for discussion. So if you know you have any conflicts with these proposed dates, I think we avoided Columbus Day, which was a prior conflict or something we had to consider. So I guess, is there any questions or concerns with moving forward with these dates for 2026? All good? All right. Speak now or no. With that, again, we're looking at an in-person hybrid in October. Thank you all for coming. I think it's great to meet face to face from time to time for those who can, but those who can't, we definitely understand. If there's an agency that would like to host that in-person meeting, we'd be more than happy to allow another agency to host that. So please let me know. I know there's some great facilities at some other state agencies, and good to get a little bit. We all love the taxidermy we have outside in the halls, but it's always interesting to see a new office building as well. So please feel free to reach out to me in the, let's just say the next 3 months or so, or before, definitely before that April meeting, if you'd be interested in hosting. So any comments on? Okay, I guess I'll open it up. Is there any agenda topics that you think we need to discuss as a group? I guess the announcement I forgot to make is that I will be meeting with Sarah Elman and the environmental and also the conservation committees, potentially. I think it still works. To kind of just share updates of what we've implemented so far in the state water plan that was developed. So I will go ahead and share. I'll pretty much be walking through, at least providing a slide for each topic, and just kind of sharing this overall progress that we've developed so far as how far we've come along in the task force. So you can see total recommendations, how many we've started, how many we've completed, and everything. So again, if you have any last minute updates you want to get to me so that I'm reporting on the latest and greatest, again, thank you all for sharing so that I have something, the most latest information to share with those committees and our legislators. I'm not sure who's all planning to be on that 1 hour discussion. I encourage anybody who's interested in joining me. I'd love to have you because I get questions and I'm not always the best one to be speaking on those topics. Yeah, Brian.
When are you meeting with Senator Elman?
Let me just pull up my calendar here to make sure I have, because it just got rescheduled. I think it's early November. Let's see here. Let's see. I have it for I'm sorry, it's November 5th at 11 a.m. is the date. So if you
I got a few more updates for you. I'll get to you by this week.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, please give me, if you have any slides you want me to share, or if you want to record something, it's completely fine. I'm open to whatever you like. I have an hour to fill. So feel free to send me whatever you'd like, and I'll do my best to share that. So again, up until, by the November 4th, just get that to me and I'll try and incorporate that in again. Welcome to have anybody who's interested, just reach out to me so that I know who to forward the invitation on to once I receive it. That's really taken up by the Friends of the Fox, are the one who are those pushing or set up that coordination effort. So that's all I had on the announcement side. Is, I guess, going back to our slide. Is there, if any announcements, any suggestions for agenda topics that you guys would like us to hear on? Speak to the task force. I'll give you guys a moment to ponder that, to see if there's anything that you think we should be hitting on. Rick, I guess I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to add, or you just like to.
I was just thinking about the contact with Senator Elman, that opportunity to highlight specific needs for funding. I mean, if we know, if that's a piece somehow we add into the presentation, the number of maybe recommendations that require, the ones that are closely approaching that need for funding support would be an opportunity at that point to have the ear of Senator Elman. At least she could be aware of tracking, her team tracking for funding support.
I could see maybe a slide that, I mean, in the past, when we did the report, we said how much needed funding. We never really spelled out how much was needed, but it might be nice to even, when you do your statistics, to show 70 of these recommendations came out of who, because there's been no funding or something. I know they'll want to know how much, but just really illustrate that a lot of these are on pause because of that. I mean,
In the statute, does it say subject to appropriation? Do we know if that's the verbiage in there? The recommendations and the lack of funding, because I know we have several statutes that say subject to appropriation, and of course, if there is no appropriation, then it's not done.
Yeah.
It's also nice if it says subject to appropriation, you can report it. I think we would like to do these, but there is no appropriation for them.
Right. So yeah, if you put it into subscriptions, then I can quantify, how many are pending funding appropriations. I will put out the disclaimer that our legislative team is reviewing what I present and going to be. So I can't guarantee that anything that you provide me will be put in, but I have to run through our legislative team just to make sure that I don't get in trouble by making promises or other things as well. So, any other thoughts, comments? I'll turn to you. Do you have any final thoughts or words before closing?
I think we've offered folks an opportunity to kind of wrap up or weigh in on any final agenda items or new business. We walked through that, so barring anything else, we look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Trent, for second.
Second.
And who's second? All,
Go ahead. All in favor?
all in favor of adjourning, say aye. Your opposed? Thank you, adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for online for attending.
Thank you.